America still hasn't recovered from the damage left by the presidency of George W. Bush, but already there's another Bush who's dying to be president, and that's Jeb. Joining me now to tell us why this could be an even bigger disaster than W's time in office is newspaper publisher Rick Outzen. Rick, the conflict between the GOP, mildly crazy GOP, and then the frenzy crazy GOP seems to be at a full tilt right now. On one side, on the frenzy GOP, as they describe it, you got Ted Cruz. You've got all the usual suspects out there coming to jump on board. Looks like we might have another Sarah Palin run. Looks like you're going to have the same book of crazies. Then on the other side, the establishment Republicans say, "Oh no, we've got two mildly crazy people. We only have Chris Christie and we've got Jeb Bush." And so those are the people the U.S. Chamber of Commerce want to put because they're only mildly crazy, and they are part of what they call the establishment GOP. This fight's tearing the party apart, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And, Eric Cantor's loss in the Republican primary just touched them even harder than they thought, because Jeb Bush stands for immigration reform. He stands for Common Core education reform. And that doesn't play well inside the Republican Party with the rank and file. The U.S. Chamber may want to push a pro-business candidate, but Bush is going to have trouble connecting with those that actually vote in the primaries.
Well, first of all, you talk about Bush. We hear about Bush more in Florida because he was the governor. If you talk about Bush anywhere else, Jeb Bush anywhere else, they're not that enamored with Jeb Bush. As a matter of fact, Ted Cruz is considerably ahead of Jeb Bush where it comes to all the straw polling and that. But they've got Jeb making speeches all over the country. They've got him in South Carolina. They've got him in Iowa. They've got him just all over the country getting ready for the run. But isn't one of the issues here, now you followed Jeb Bush, you followed him through the Independent for years, isn't part of the problem that in Florida, the story was never told, the PNAC story was never told, the Shearson Lehman story was never told, the savings and loan story was never told, and he's going to see a different kind of approach to Jeb Bush when he gets out there for a national election, don't you think?
Well, in Florida, he dominated politics, Mike, from 1999 to 2007. And the PNAC story is an interesting story because it's not really even known outside of Florida as much. That was a project for a new American century. It was the one that had Donald Rumsfeld was part of it. Dick Cheney was a part of it. It was a pro-military, get ready to invade Iraq initiative that suddenly disappeared in '06. But it was very, very much in building a strong army, being one that would be more proactive around the government, not be afraid to take over countries or to lead regime changes.
Yeah, what it really was is about imperialism. I mean, if you took a look at their documents, by the way, you said it's no longer around. What happened when Iraq started failing, when you had Bush talking about what a glorious war was going to be, Cheney, Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld, when everything started falling apart, the PNAC organization disappeared. In other words, you went from all of these employees, all of these active members, to where at the end in 2006, you'd make a call and there'd be an answering service with no employees. Because what was happening was the media was asking the question, isn't this a guy, isn't Jeb Bush talking about the need for expansive military action all over the globe, even not for safety purposes, but for imperialism, to build and take? That it's very clear that that's what PNAC was about. That was hardly even discussed anywhere about Jeb Bush. It's going to be discussed this time, though, isn't it?
I think it will be, because we're coming out of the longest war in this nation's history. We're having veterans who are dealing with all sorts of issues over multiple tenure, 10 years over there. They've had to deal with a whole lot of issues, and the war is going to be very much a part of the election. The results of that war will be very much a part of the election in 2016, and Bush will not hold up well with that.
Well, they tried to close the PNAC story down by saying they did away with the site, they did away with the organization, they tried to hide the employees, and they did that because people started taking a look at their charter, and it was Jeb Bush, Make no mistake about it.
Right.
It was Jeb Bush saying we need to expand our war efforts, not just in Iraq, but in Iran, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in anywhere in the world that we might want to flex our muscle and take oil and take natural resources. It was all about pure, I mean, there's no other way to describe it other than textbook imperialism. So you have Chris Christie and you have Jeb Bush as kind of the establishment candidates.
Right.
Now you have Chris Christie burning down, don't you?
Well, we have Bridgegate, and we find out that he was a political thug or is a political thug, and how he operates anyone who stands against him. And that kind of thuggery doesn't play well on a national scale. Now, he's trying to convince the Republican faithful that that's behind him, that everything's been settled, and he's going to all the big money and telling them he's got this under control. Mike, you and I both know it's nowhere near.
Oh, no, it's just started. As a matter of fact, almost every week there's a new aide coming back saying, you know what, let me tell you how badly Chris Christie lied. It wasn't just about the bridge issue, lied about funding. The ugliest story is the Hurricane Sandy relief, where he told parts of the state, if you don't support me, you've lost your home, you've lost God knows what, your businesses, you've lost everything, but I'm not going to give you any money. He'd say this to the leadership, I'm not going to give you any money unless you support me. I mean, we're talking about people that lost everything. That story has barely been told, and basically the way they're looking at that story is from a standpoint of just extortion, isn't it?
Right, it is. Well, New Jersey's not that big of a state, and the mayors are coming forward because they're getting touched by their constituents, asking why haven't we dealt with all these infrastructure issues that they're still battling? Why are these businesses having trouble coming back from that hurricane? And they're not afraid to tell the story, and they're telling it to the Department of Justice. They're telling it to the news media. It'll be a crescendo that will keep growing over the next couple months.
Rick Outzen, thank you for joining me, okay?